we watched it. We found some old VHS tapes. I watched it, I think it was 1992 or grand final with my kids. They were laughing. I go, what's this? You know, they were going, what's this game? Where are you? Have you actually done anything? Like, it was totally different back then. At Randwick, I had a lot of fantastic memories. You know, I think finally getting into the first grade, I had a couple of years where I didn't play in the Colts. To get into the first team, it was a pretty highly qualified team back then. I think there were some stages in that Randwick team where I was the only player who hadn't played for Australia, you know, inside of the team. So I think playing with a lot of those guys was a highlight for me. I think that was a lot of my learning about coaching as well, was more from the players I had, I think, than anything else around me. The Ellas, Simon Poitevin, David Campese, David Knox, the Burke brothers. There was a iconic era, and then I suppose my contemporaries as well that I played alongside were leaders, Phil Kearns. You know, they taught me a little bit about everything, all parts of the game. And I really, really loved, even though I probably socially wasn't in that mix with them, I was a different character. I wouldn't have been classic rugby, you know. I came from rugby league school and had my own thing going on. But I'd always just lived up the road from that ground. So I watched the games, I knew about the identity of the team and how they like to play running footy. And that really appealed to me. There's many great days there, you know, especially at the clubhouse. And that's if you go right back to some of our earlier discussions about identity of club, that's what you lived in down there. You lived in an identity, and that immediately set the standards for you around how you played, how you trained, all those things, and what you did when you didn't deliver. Game hasn't changed, like as in that part of the love for the game and what the game is, that impact. The business side of it, you've just got to compartmentalise that as a business. You know, you've got to have a clear divide of when you're running a business, when you're there and you're running the show, when you're running the business, and when you're the leader and when you're the manager, the footy coach. So when you're building relationships and doing that, and then when you're having to make those other decisions, whether they be around expenditure, roster planning, whether they be about facilities or infrastructure, you've got to always make the assessments for the best interests of the club. There's sometimes you're flicking through and there's a game on, a random game from somewhere around the world, and you start watching it and you just get into it for the sake of the enjoyment, you know. And I think that really the only games you need to be watching with that rugby sort of head on is your teams, and maybe teams that are going to play your teams in the near future, or if you're specifically looking for trends in the game, what's going to happen there. But otherwise, you're just looking to go and enjoy the game. You know, you can't. That's the fun part of it. You know, even sometimes as a coach, you get caught in that. You know, I remember a game between Leinster when I coached in Ireland, Leinster and Munster, which is the big rivalry, and we were playing in Croke Park, a really historic place in Ireland, 80,000 people, and I had a John O'Gibbs, the former Chiefs and All Black, who was coaching with me, and said to him, it was like a national event, you know, half the stadium was red, half the stadium was blue. I said, mate, what are we actually doing here? Like, we're two Antipodeans in the middle of this whole, rugby. It's a part of their national psyche in that day, and it was just enjoyable to be there in the moment. You have to, of course, then refocus on what you need to do on game day at coaching, but, you know, you've got to enjoy the event always and, you know, keep it in its real context.